Something strange is happening in Cleveland. A rookie quarterback is quietly dominating practices and shredding defenses in preseason, all without taking a single snap with the starters. He's reading coverages like a vet, throwing lasers to guys who might not even make the roster, and still moving the offense step for step. His name? Shedeur Sanders, a fifth-round pick with first-round blood running through his veins. And yet, somehow, he's still on the bench. You're not imagining it. Something about this story doesn't add up. The NFL loves its Cinderella tales until someone shows up a little too polished, too poised, and way too ready. Then, suddenly, it becomes about development time, paying dues, and waiting your turn. But what happens when that rookie isn't just good for a rookie, and might actually be better than the guy starting ahead of him? That's not the kind of thing the league likes, and if you look closely at how Kevin Stefanski talks about Sanders, you'll notice a pattern. High praise, yes, but always just subtle enough to keep him in the shadows. Just cautious enough to delay the inevitable. Meanwhile, analysts, players, even rival coaches are starting to ask the same question. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? Because this might not just be about football. This might be about power, perception, and how the NFL handles players who don't follow the script. And if the Browns don't make a move soon, they might lose more than just games. When Shedeur Sanders slipped into the 5th round of the NFL draft, fans were stunned, but insiders? They were confused. This wasn't some raw, unfinished prospect with athletic upside and nothing else. Shedeur walked into the draft with elite production, generational bloodlines, and one of the highest football IQs in college football. He had the numbers, the leadership, the tape. Heck, he had Deion Sanders, his literal father, vouching for him every step of the way. And still, 143 players were called before his name. Publicly, Shedeur took it with grace. Privately, some say he kept receipts. And he should, because if he had worn a different name on his jersey and played for a different program, he might have been a day one lock. But the NFL doesn't just measure talent, it measures tradition. It judges you on the school you come from, the system you played in, how closely you resemble the last guy who made it. So, when Shedeur broke records at Jackson State and then transferred to Colorado following Coach Prime that didn't sit well with every scout in the league, they questioned the competition, the style of offense. Some even tossed around the word spoiled, as if having a Hall of Famer for a father somehow disqualifies you from building your own path. And that's where the disrespect really began. Not just in where he was drafted, but in how quietly the league brushed past what he'd already proven. We've seen less accomplished quarterbacks skyrocket up the board just because they fit a mold. Tall frame, cannon arm, played in a Power 5 program. Classic prospect look. Shedeur? He broke that mold, and the mold didn't like it. Some insiders speculated teams were hesitant about the spotlight that comes with drafting a Sanders. As if visibility equals liability. As if being a brand off the field means you're a distraction on it. But none of that criticism stuck once he stepped into Browns camp, because the moment he put on a helmet, it wasn't hype driving the narrative anymore, it was performance. Clean drops, sharp reads, next-level anticipation, and it wasn't just flashes. It was consistent, measured, repeatable. The type of stuff coaches look for from their starter, not their afterthought 5th rounder. And now, every clip, every crisp throw, every quietly dominant preseason rep feels like another receipt getting stapled to the tape. And here's the twist: the league might have accidentally created a monster. Because the only thing scarier than a quarterback with elite talent is a quarterback with something to prove. When Shedeur Sanders arrived in Cleveland, no banners went up, no press conference frenzy, no promises, no spotlight. Just a 5th-round rookie thrown into the bottom of the depth chart, expected to quietly learn the system and wait for someone else to get hurt. But here's the thing, Shedeur didn't come to sit quietly. He got to work, fast. And the people paying attention started noticing even faster. Before you even saw his name in a headline, Sanders was out on the practice field making throws that raised the eyebrows of coaches, teammates, and even beat reporters who thought they were just covering another Project QB. He wasn't getting first-team reps. He wasn't surrounded by starters. He was often throwing to guys fighting for their NFL lives 3rd, sometimes 4th-string receivers, and still, he was moving the offense like a veteran starter, calm in the pocket, deadly accurate, making lightning-quick reads, while being protected by linemen who might not survive final cuts. Nobody was handing him stage time, so he started stealing scenes from the shadows. And that's when the noise started to build. Quiet at first, A few blogs. A few bold tweets. Whispers from reporters saying, "He looks ahead of schedule," but then came the preseason games, and he delivered. Clean series, efficient pocket presence, drives extended on third down. Not wild, flashy plays, but professional ones. The kind that don't make highlight reels, but make defensive coordinators nervous. He wasn't just surviving, he was outplaying other quarterbacks ahead of him on the depth chart. But despite that, Kevin Stefanski's stance never changed. Asked directly about Shedeur's rise, the Browns head coach stayed neutral, called it developmental, used terms like earning reps and long-term process. It wasn't dismissive, but it also wasn't the green light fans were already screaming for, and that's when things started to explode. Because Shedeur wasn't just outperforming expectations, he was outperforming players who were supposedly in line ahead of him. The whole situation started looking less like a strategic slow burn, and more like the coaching staff was trying to manage something they couldn't contain. The Browns brought Sanders in as a fifth-round developmental QB, a camp arm, a long shot. But now, he's turned training camp into a chess match, forcing the organization to rethink everything without ever demanding anything publicly. And that's what makes it even scarier. He's not talking, he's not complaining. He's just executing and making the wait your turn act look more and more like denial. Once the whispers started turning into tweets, it didn't take long for the story to go nuclear. Because if there's one thing that can't resist controversy mixed with potential injustice, it's sports media, and Stephen A. Smith was the first one at the microphone. The moment Kevin Stefanski deflected that reporter's question about Shedeur's chances with the first team, you could practically hear Stephen A. crack his knuckles. On air, he didn't just react, he launched a full-on assault. "You mean to tell me this young man has done everything you ask and you still won't give him a shot with the starters? With all due respect, Coach Stefanski, that's nonsense. Not hesitant. Not cautious. Nonsense." That quote alone sent the sports world into a tailspin. Talk shows lit up, Reddit flooded, TikTok exploded with clips of Shedeur dropping dimes in camp. Suddenly, this was no longer a quiet internal discussion in Cleveland, it was a national debate. And Stephen A. wasn't alone. Former NFL quarterback and film junkie Dan Orlovsky backed it up with surgical precision. He broke down Sanders' tape like a seasoned prosecutor in court. Footwork? Textbook. Progressions? Lightning fast. Awareness under pressure? Elite. Ability to extend plays without falling into chaos? That's what gets you paid in this league. Shedeur was doing it all with backups, no-name linemen, fringe receivers, and making it look easy. If he's doing this with guys who won't even make the roster, Orlovsky said, imagine what happens when you put him on the field with real talent. You don't think that translates? Come on. Even the typically measured Adam Schefter joined the conversation, and he doesn't get involved unless there's smoke worth chasing. Schefter didn't throw out wild predictions or hot takes. He just gave what many would consider a warning shot. There's real buzz around Shedeur Sanders. In the building. In the league. And it's not accidental. From studio desks to NFL locker rooms, the consensus was growing louder and harder to ignore. No one is demanding he be crowned a franchise star before he earns it. But that's the thing, he might already have earned it. Not with flashy Instagram clips or loud bravado, but with clean footwork, sharp execution, and real leadership. And if a first-rounder were putting up the same performances, this debate wouldn't even exist. That's what burns. The talent isn't in question anymore, it's the process refusing to acknowledge it. And now, with the biggest names in media banging the table, one thing is clear: this isn't just a quarterback controversy anymore. This is a storm, and Kevin Stefanski is stuck in the middle of it. Behind closed doors, the Cleveland Browns are facing a problem they won't admit out loud. Not yet, anyway. Because when a rookie quarterback is outperforming expectations and doing everything right, it should be a good problem to have, right? The reality? It's not that simple. Shedeur Sanders has thrown a spotlight on something the Browns have been trying to manage quietly: the tension between raw, undeniable talent and the slow, methodical system the coaching staff wants to stick to. Head coach Kevin Stefanski has always preached patience, structure, development. And to be fair, in today's NFL, rushing a young quarterback can backfire. The jump in speed, complexity, pressure, it eats some rookies alive. So, when Stefanski urges caution, he's not entirely wrong. But here's the issue. This isn't just some rookie. This is a rookie who doesn't look like one. And that's making the Browns' long-term plans start to feel like something else entirely, fear of disrupting the order. When Shedeur walks onto that practice field and starts delivering clean, confident drives with third-string talent around him, it sends a message, not just to the fans, but to the team, to the veterans, to the coaching staff. And that message is hard to ignore. Your fifth-round developmental guy might just be your best quarterback. And that's dangerous. Not because it's wrong, but because it breaks the hierarchy. Right now, the Browns already have a starting quarterback. Not an elite one. Not a franchise-changing talent. Just steady, serviceable, safe. And that's exactly the problem. Because you don't ignite a fan base or a locker room with safe. And the more Shedeur keeps stacking efficient reps, the worse that comparison starts to look. Every preseason snap he nails. Every calm throw under pressure. Every sideline strike with zero margin for error, it tightens the grip of the question. Why isn't this guy climbing the depth chart right now? Patience starts looking like protection. Development starts looking like denial. And sticking to the plan starts looking like fear of shaking up the status quo. Internally, coaches may still be preaching restraint, but the team knows. Players see it. You can't fool a locker room. They know when a guy has it. And they know when the better player is being kept on the sideline for political reasons. And once your roster starts leaning toward the guy not playing, it doesn't just become a coaching decision, it becomes a leadership crisis. Right now, Stefanski is walking a tightrope. If Shedeur isn't the future, no problem. But if he is, every second he's not on the field is borrowed time. There's something coaches don't talk about in press conferences. The moment when a team, not the staff, not the fans, but the players starts to believe in someone different than the guy wearing the headset tells them to. And that moment might already be happening in Cleveland. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just stacking good reps, he's stacking quiet respect. The kind that matters in an NFL locker room. The kind that doesn't come from hype videos or followers, but from calm eyes in a collapsing pocket and precision, throws that move the chains when the lights are on. Veterans recognize real. They don't care if you were taken first overall or nabbed late on day 3. What they care about is whether you can actually run the huddle, shoulder pressure, and give them the best shot to win. And day by day, Sanders is checking those exact boxes. Without demanding anything, without politicking, without headlines. He's not talking about the depth chart. He's not tweeting cryptic messages. He's just working, and teammates are noticing. That's where the shift begins quiet at first. You see a wide receiver talking to him a little longer after a rep. A lineman jogs over to dap him up after a touchdown drive in a preseason game. DBs start chirping a little more in his direction because he keeps picking apart their second-team coverage. These moments don't show up on stat sheets, but they're everything in a divided locker room. Because here's the reality. Players know when someone's a threat, and they also know when someone's the future. And if enough of those guys, the vets, the scouts, the position coaches start to believe that Sanders gives them a better chance to compete, to win, to build something real, that belief is going to seep beyond the locker room and into the coaching office. You can't silence that kind of momentum by sticking to the plan. That dynamic, it's how locker rooms turn. It's how young quarterbacks stop being just prospects and start becoming leaders people rally around. And that puts Kevin Stefanski in a high-stakes position, because there's a fine line between protecting a young QB from pressure and losing the confidence of players who've already switched sides. The Browns' offense wasn't drafted to sit around and wait for magic. Guys like Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, and that offensive line are built to win right now. And the more they see Sanders operating with surgical precision, even behind shaky protection and backup receivers, the harder it becomes to justify keeping him in an observer role. This isn't just a coaching decision anymore, it's a chemistry experiment. And if you ignore that unspoken shift too long, you break the team. Because when the locker room believes you're holding back the guy who can make a difference, patience stops looking like leadership and starts looking like sabotage. Here's the cold, uncomfortable truth about the NFL. Your draft position can define your destiny until you force people to admit they were wrong. And that's exactly the wall Shedeur Sanders is up against. Sanders was taken in the 5th round. That number sticks. Not because it reflects his potential, but because it's a label that comes with baggage. In many NFL front offices, it quietly means, not ready. Roster filler. Let's revisit in 2 years. But what happens when that guy, the one you slotted in as depth, starts outperforming the guys you paid millions to lead your offense? It creates tension. A high draft pick can play badly and still get opportunity after opportunity because the organization is invested not just financially, but publicly. You can't admit failure too fast without looking like you made a mistake. But a late-round pick who plays well? He has to go above and beyond just to get half the shot. And that's the exact trap Sanders is in. If he had been drafted in the first round, this wouldn't even be a conversation. He'd be taking first-team reps. He'd already be in the mix for week 1. Stephen A. wouldn't be ranting. Dan Orlovsky wouldn't need to daily dissect his mechanics. The league would have already handed him the keys. Instead, his name came at pick 157, and whether they want to admit it or not, that lowered the bar not for his performance, but for how quickly coaches were willing to trust it. Brown's insider reports say things like, his development is ahead of schedule. Translation? He's crushed expectations. But they still don't feel urgency. Why? Because he was a so-called project. That's the box he was placed in, and when you beat that label too early, the system doesn't always applaud its stalls. It resists change, even when results scream for it. That's the politics, the invisible game behind the game. It's not about talent. By now, everyone in the building has seen what Sanders brings to the table. It's not about leadership. Veterans are already whispering about the kid's poise and control. It's not even about readiness. He's literally doing everything you ask of a starter, except playing with the starters. It's about image. It's about the narrative baked into his draft spot, and whether the Browns are ready to disrupt their own hierarchy by admitting this fifth-rounder may already be better than the guy they designed the playbook around. Adam Schefter said it bluntly, if he were a first-rounder, this decision would already be made. And that's what makes it even more frustrating, not just for fans, but for Sanders himself, and the people in the locker room watching it unfold in real time. Because at some point, the tape speaks louder than the pick. And when your late-round QB is making starter-level throws, running the huddle with composure, and winning over the locker room, well, you can only ignore that for so long before it starts costing you everything else. While the media world spins in circles, analysts debate, and fans flood comment sections with takes, Shedeur Sanders remains silent. And that silence? It's not weakness. It's not passiveness. It's strategy. While some rookies campaign for playing time with soundbites and sideline antics, Sanders is doing something far more dangerous to the Browns' quarterback hierarchy. He's letting his work do all the talking. Every practice rep is surgical. Every preseason drive is efficient. Every mistake gets corrected, not excused. No drama, no ego, just production. He doesn't glare at the sidelines. He doesn't roll his eyes after being pulled. In interviews, it's always the same calm tone. Just trying to learn. Every snap matters. I trust the coaches. But behind that, humility is a killer instinct, and everyone around him feels it. Dan Orlovsky said it best. He plays like someone who already trusts himself. That's rare for a rookie, because quarterbacking isn't just arm strength and scheme understanding. It's command, confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be yelled, just felt. And Sanders has it. What makes this even scarier for Cleveland's coaching staff is that Shedeur isn't pushing back against the system. He's not making it a problem. He's making it harder to protect the plan. Coaches love to slow play rookies, especially late round ones, because it buys them time. They can point to experience, let the kid work on the scout team, and cushion the transition. That only works until the rookie starts looking more prepared than the guy ahead of him. And right now, that's happening. Every day. Except Sanders isn't yelling about it. Everyone else is. The locker room sees it. The media sees it. Fans are chanting his name during preseason drives. And Shedeur? He just goes back to work like it's all noise. He's the kind of player who grinds in silence, kills with precision, and never tells you what's coming until he's already done it 10 times in a row. That's not just talent, that's leadership. And leadership can't be kept off the field forever. Because eventually, the numbers on a depth chart start to matter less than what the team feels when number 14 walks into the huddle. And right now, the team feels it. Coaches can try to slow the hype down. Hide behind scripted answers. Talk about timelines and developmental reps. But Sanders is rewriting the script through pure execution and taking advantage of every single opportunity he's given, no matter how small. And that's the part that should really worry the Browns staff. Their raw fifth-round prospect isn't just catching up. He might be pulling ahead, quietly, decisively, and without saying a single word. Because sometimes, the loudest statement a quarterback can make is saying nothing at all and still taking over. Right now, the Browns are living on a clock that's louder than they think. They still call it development. They still frame it as trusting the process. But everyone watching knows the truth. The clock is already ticking, and every Shedeur Sanders snap is another second closer to a decision they can't put off. The fans feel it, the media's screaming it, and somewhere in that locker room, players are thinking it too. What exactly are we waiting for? If the Browns stumble early during the regular season, if the current starter throws a couple of picks, or they stall out in the red zone a few too many times, that soft-spoken quarterback waiting on the bench won't just be a storyline anymore. He'll become a mandate. Stefanski and the front office might still think they have time. But in the NFL, you don't sit on momentum, you steer it. If you don't, it turns on you. And right now, momentum is wearing no. Sure sit. Every preseason game where Sanders moves the chains without top-tier talent tightens the coil. Every drive he finishes with points turns up the pressure. Every fan who leaves the stadium talking about the backup chips away at the illusion of control. That's dangerous for any coach, especially one coming off seasons filled with almosts, ifs, and wait and sees. Because once the noise gets loud enough, every decision you make becomes a referendum on your ability to recognize talent when it's right in front of you. Stephen A. Smith already called it out. If the Browns start 0-2 and Shedeur Sanders is still holding a clipboard, every loss becomes his game. The game he didn't play. Think about that. Every underwhelming Sunday could turn into a what if the moment cameras start scanning the sideline for the rookie everyone's been talking about. And that's exactly what Stefanski's up against. Not just pressure, but perception. If fans, media, and now maybe even players start believing you're holding back the guy who can win, your job doesn't just get harder, it gets fragile. And here's the twist. This whole debate still isn't about whether Sanders' ceiling is higher than the starter. That part's obvious. It's about how long the Browns are willing to wait before they admit it. Because once the season begins, giving it time shifts from being a developmental strategy to a risk. A gamble, one you can't walk back from. You can't keep using eventually as a shield when that eventual moment is standing on the sideline with a helmet in his hand, ready. Start him too early? Sure, you risk growing pains, but wait too long? You risk missing the moment completely and worse, losing your grip on the people in your building. Because the scariest part about time? You don't know it ran out until it's already too late. And for Cleveland, that fuse is burning fast. Every year, there's one storyline in the NFL that goes from background noise to full volume unavoidable. For the Browns, this is that story. What started as a preseason curiosity, hey, that rookie looks pretty good, has evolved into a national spotlight focused squarely on one question. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? And it's no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But now, even that's starting to fade. Because the when is turning into now. This isn't a developmental project, quietly working towards some future handoff. This is a fully capable quarterback, standing on the sideline with a playbook in his hands, eyes locked on every detail, feet resting on the edge of opportunity. And somehow, despite everything he's shown, he's still waiting for permission. Let that sink in. Sanders has already executed clean drives with third-string protection, outpaced expectations in every camp report, earned the respect of veteran teammates, survived every test. A young quarterback is supposed to fail. And yet he still hasn't touched the first-team offense. Why? Not because he isn't ready. Because the system isn't ready for the reality he represents. Sanders is breaking every assumption. And that's uncomfortable. He wasn't supposed to be NFL ready this fast. He wasn't supposed to challenge for the top of the depth chart. He wasn't supposed to stir up a controversy that makes Cleveland's coaching staff squirm behind the mic every time his name comes up. But reality doesn't care about draft slots. Leadership doesn't wait for permission. And momentum? It doesn't hit the brakes just because a staff had a different timeline in mind. What makes this moment so electric, so incredibly rare, is that we're watching that fragile line between potential and proven get crossed in real time. Usually, that happens behind closed doors, slowly, strategically. But not this time. This shift is happening in the open. You can catch it in the crowd reactions, in the practice footage, in the eye test. Every snap is another reason why Shedeur Sanders isn't just climbing, he's overtaking. And Kevin Stefanski? He now faces one of the hardest decisions a head coach can make, not if to make the move, but when to admit the moment has already arrived. And here's the brutal truth. If the Browns wait too long, they don't just risk losing games, they risk losing belief. From the locker room, from the community, and from inside their own walls. Because when something feels inevitable, delaying it doesn't come off as caution, it comes off as fear. Shedeur Sanders' NFL story is going to happen. That much is clear. The only thing left for Cleveland to decide is whether they want to ride that storm or get swept away by it. The league is watching. The fans are waiting. And for every throw, every series, every moment he looks 10 years older than he is, the NFL clock ticks louder. When becomes now? And once that happens, there's no turning back.